What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Lore Chronicles. I am your host, Willoughbys, and today we are breaking down even more cards that you need to be on the lookout for Wilds Unknown, which releases this week. I can't wait. I know you guys are so excited. So to get you prepped and ready to start deck building, to start play testing with all the cards, we are doing the final 3 ink colors and all of the cards that we think are interesting in each one. So stick around. But before we get into the video, just as a reminder, Mr. Burns is in Japan. He woke up super early for this one. I think it was like 5 a.m. or something crazy over there, in order to be on the channel filming and talking about these cards. So sorry for any audio quality issues, any weird background or glitches in the audio and all of those things. We did our best to make it sound good. We appreciate you guys watching. Anyways, of course, join our Discord. Talk to us about these cards. We want to see your brews for the next set and give you advice and all of the things. So come hang out with us in Discord. Okay, let's get into the video. Boom. Emerald. Okay, starting off with RC. Okay, I'm so excited to hear what you have to say about this card, but let me read them to the people first. 1 cost inkable. Okay, 3 strength, 2 willpower, quests for 2 with the ability this character can't quest or challenge unless you pay 1 ink. You said you think this card is really good. Some people might look at something like this, see it as a downside, but as you have taught us, Mr. Burns, there are no downsides. There are only upsides that you haven't discovered yet. Are you proud of me? I'm learning. Talk to me about this card.
Yeah, so this card, here's the thing. We said it when we were talking about the Willow card, right? It's so much easier to just have 1 random ink laying around. And especially if you go into your deck building phase, like knowing that you want to have 1 random ink. So I think that this card is very good in an aggressive deck that is going to want to play, 2 to 3 characters every single turn. And then the turns that you don't have that many in your hand to play, you just use the 1 ink on those turns, right? I think you just go super wide with cards like this, and then all of a sudden win over the course of 2 or 3 quests. Or when it is like playing, T-pose and stuff, and you just run them over immediately. So I think that this is like just a really good rate and stats of a card in a deck that you are going to go ahead and just like have a really low to the ground curve anyway, right?
Yeah. Okay, super interesting. Excited to see what people think about RC, because I think it's one that's kind of flying under the radar, but I trust you and I know that it's going to be interesting. Let's talk about Lenny next. Okay, this is a 3 cost inkable. He's so cute. Tiny binoculars. Like, are you kidding? 0 strength, 2 willpower, quest for 1, 2 abilities. When you play this character, chosen opponent reveals their hand and discards an action card of your choice. Okay, so we have that kind of what is it, Mowgli, right? Except it's your choice. So Timon, rather. But now it's gotten better. Power creep, because it's inkable. And once during your turn, whenever you play an action, you may ready this character. So this is something that people were looking to throw in to the maybe red-green actions gonna be a thing in Infinity. Talk to me just, though, about Lenny. What do you think?
Yeah, so I think this is primarily an Infinity card, but not like, depending on what decks look like, it could also just easily be a core card. Like, the card seems insane.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my god, they showed the legendary Emerald card. No. So okay, let's compare it to Timon, right? Because we talk a lot about rate on this channel.
Yep.
So it gave up 2 stat points versus Timon, right?
Yep.
One of those stat points made it inkable, right? Because uninkability can increase a stat point, and the other stat point gave it its second ability, which readies itself.
I think that
I don't
makes
think
it
the fact
above rate, no?
it keeps it on rate.
Okay.
It's the same rate as Timon
Okay.
because it gave up uninkability for 1 stat point, and then it gained the second ability, losing the other stat point.
Okay.
Here's the thing. I don't think people cared that Timon had 2 had 2 strength. People cared that it was uninkable.
Right.
Okay? This card is nuts. Do they remember Muses? Did
Right.
they remember that they printed Muses? This would have been a worse card at a 3/1.
Yeah.
How insane is it that you can add a stat point and make it a worse card? The fact that this card sings and then readies itself from that song as well. What is happening? How did this card get printed? I Listen, I'm in Japan right now. I am buying the Emerald Amber discard deck.
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
I want to play a Japanese version of that in Indy if I can find all the cards,
Oh yeah.
because I like locked in on on this after they printed this card.
Lenny
It's insane.
stonks are through the roof. No, I definitely agree. There's a lot of loopability there. The muses is a thing. Get ready for Infinity, folks. It's coming and it's not gonna stop.
And it hits any card, not just a song, any action.
Yeah, it's awesome. No, it's awesome. It's great. Okay, all right, let's talk about Lyle Tiberius Rourke. 2 cost inkable, 2 strength, 2 willpower. When you play this character, you may draw a card, then choose and discard a card. And at the end of your turn, if 2 or more cards were put into your discard this turn, each opponent loses 1 lore. I want you to talk about it because I do think you were the one who put it in here, unless I'm lying to you. But even if I put it in here, the reason why one thing I want you to also talk about is this idea of at the end of your turn, if 2 or more cards are put into your discard this turn, because we're seeing a lot more cards with that printed on it. Like the idea of like interacting with your discard, specifically at that magic number 2. It's like a lot of the times 2 cards have to have entered your discard, then things happen. So talk to me about that, the idea of that mechanic, and then also what you wanted to say about this card as well.
Okay, so do people remember Yzma?
Which one?
2 cost 2/2 Emerald. 2 cost 2/2 draw a card, discard a card.
Okay.
That card is good. That's a good card. Okay. Now we have this other ability added to it for no downside. Power creep. We won't power creep.
Wait,
All right.
Sound the
It's
alarm.
problem. It's an issue. Here's the thing about the ability. I think that building your deck around it might be a mistake, but I love that you just have this random upside of like you're naturally putting cards in your discard pile. That's how the game of Disney Lorcana goes. You challenge things, you play actions, they go in your discard pile, right? So like just having these passive abilities that are going to randomly trigger at different points in the game and just give you an extra benefit for literal no downside, considering Yzma was a 2 cost 2/2 that you would play with the same ability, I think is phenomenal. I actually love this ability. I don't think people should like be building around it. I see
Okay.
people building around it. I think you should just like be happy that you will trigger this ability sometimes.
Okay. I think that's a good note because like it's exciting to see things that do a lot of the same things, right? And then be like, wait, if all of my cards have this ability, then it goes crazy when this happens. But like you said, then you kind of like get a little tunnel vision on combos. So I do think that's a good thing to note. Is like sometimes you don't have to fully build around something. You can just be happy that it's gonna trigger, you know, sometimes, if not
Yeah.
most of the time. Like you said, like we're always putting cards into our discard pile. All right.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to
Yeah,
play.
sorry.
I'm sorry. I just want to play this in Bobby anyway.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's like, there you go. Okay, so before we get into the 3 actions that you included here, I did want to just mention Buzz Lightyear. 3 cost inkable, 4 strength, 2 willpower, quest for 1. Whenever you pay 2 or less to play a non-character, draw a card, then choose and discard a card. Okay. And then whenever you pay 2 or less to play a character, deal 1 damage to chosen opposing damage character. Now, I mostly put them in to note that there is a red, green, and a ruby and emerald infinite like combo with like Hercules and stuff like that. And this is a card that I'm seeing in those lists as well, kind of getting the option to, you know, draw and choose and discard a card, you know, but also being able to deal some damage. Is this card at all interesting to you? Did you think that combo's interesting? I just kind of wanted to toss it in there since it's making some rounds already.
So I think the combo is awful because the loungers thought of it. So just straight up, that's my take on that. But in all seriousness, I do think that this is a good card because if you trigger it twice, it's now on rate, right?
Mm,
Because the 3 cost 4/4 is on rate. So like a loot effect and whatever other effect is
deal
just
damage,
something that
yeah.
costs. Well, yeah, by mint in general. Sorry,
Oh yeah, I see.
not just for Buzz. Any small effect is something that would cost you 1 stat point. So once you have triggered it twice, you have gotten an on rate card, right?
Mhm.
And I think this is another one of those great cards that is kind of like an item, but when you need it to be a character, it's a character, right? It's not
Yeah.
something like Prince John, which challenges nothing because it's a 1/2. It's actually like a really good body, and ideally you would like to play it and trigger it on the same turn. That way it doesn't just get angeled off the board and you did nothing with your turn, right? But I think that this is a great card for like Circle of Life, obviously. And I think that I really like when they print these passive abilities, just like we were talking about with Lyle.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, cool. So now to round out Emerald, we've got 3 items. The first of which is Buzz's Arm. 2 cost inkable. If a character named Buzz Lightyear was banished this turn, you may play this item for free and exert this item. You pay 1 less for the next action or item you play this turn. Talk to me about Buzz's Arm.
Well, actually, I'm sorry we didn't get to prep much because of this trip. It was the package of 3 that was important.
Oh, okay.
So if you
So
want to do all
let's
3,
do all
I
3.
basically have the same note for all 3. Sorry about that.
No
This is my
worries.
fault.
Uh, Gyro Evac, 3 costs uninkable. Exert this item, pay 1. Chosen character of yours gains evasive until the start of your next turn, and exert. Banish this item. Each player loses 2 lore, and then 2 costs uninkable Merida's Bow. When you play this item, deal 1 damage to chosen character. Pay 1, banish this item, deal 1 damage to chosen character. Now, before you talk about these items as a whole, I do want to say, and I'm not saying they invented it. I don't know who invented it, but yes, credit to the Loungers again, because I have been watching some of their games where they are playing Emerald and Sapphire. Now, again, I'm not saying they've thought of it, but this is a deck that, like, I'm sure is going to be, people are going to be all over it. Emerald and Sapphire items specifically, and specifically this Gyro Evac is insane. Banishing it and then your opponent losing 2 lore and then bringing it back with Tamatoa and continuing to do it over and over and over again. So I'm sure that's your idea for these items in general. Talk to me about why you wanted to put these on here.
So is that Infinity or Core?
That one's Infinity. That one's Infinity.
So, the Emerald Sapphire item deck has been in existence since like pre-rotation, right? It
Yeah.
was already just a very good deck. It's a deck that actually Gavin, shout out to Gavin. Some people know him. He's underage. We're not going to show a photo of him. And he has been doing pretty well in all of the side events with the deck. Like, I think even going like undefeated or like 6-1 in these premier side events at DLCs with Emerald Sapphire items, right?
Yeah.
So I think that these just slot perfectly into that. Not only that, we had that video of, fun decks that people could play last set. One of them was Emerald Sapphire items in Core Constructed.
Yeah.
And I think these slot perfectly into that deck as well. Like, I think that this package of cards, and I'm going to call it a package because, like, maybe you play one of one, one of the other, 2 of one, or you play, I don't think you play 12 of these cards.
Right. Right.
It could be any number between 3 and 12, basically, is something that can really legitimize this deck and bring it up to like a tier 2 or possibly even tier 1 level in Core Constructed. And I think it was already a really good deck in Infinity, and these just made it better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know. I mean, who like like look at Amber Steel for example in terms of like crediting a deck to somebody. Shout out to all the people who make all the decks happen. I'm just saying the Loungers is how I found it. And that means like if I didn't know about it, a lot of our audience isn't even going to know it's a thing. And that deck looks so dominating. I'm sure it's something like you said, people have been, slowly cracking the code and updating and things like that. So I think that's going to be a meta
Bivens
staple for
played
them.
it at Worlds.
Nice. Oh, very cool. I think it's going to be a really interesting deck for Infinity. I'm excited to see what we can do in Core as well, because you know that Tamatoa recursion is still around. So there's lots to consider. But yeah, that's going to round out our Emerald cards. All right, let's talk about these Sapphire cards. So we have Prince Charming. Okay, this is a 2-cost inkable, 1 strength, 5 willpower, and quest for 1 lore. No ability text there. So talk to me about what interests you in this Prince Charming.
Well, obviously, we are going to play in the chip deck, right? We're going to have 50 characters that have the highest willpower we could possibly have. I'm kidding. There was a little discourse about that in the last video. But yeah, so I mean, a 1/5 is just like 1 rate, right? And people are not very excited about it. But do you know how much damage it can hold? The answer is 4. It can hold 4 damage, right? And you're not going to do that on curve. It's not like your opponent is going to play a 4/1 on turn 1, right? But at some point in the game, when you're playing something like Ohana Means Family, I mean, this 1/5 could hold back many much larger characters, right? And it can get you further into that late game so that you can find your traditional board wipes and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So I actually, this card is like sneakily one of the better cards in the set.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a good point. Like for the cost, how much damage it can hold. You mentioned Ohana Means Family. That card is Amber. Just a quick little preview at the future. Some people have been talking about some Amber Sapphire, you know, control and healing and all these things. Do you believe in that deck in either Core or Infinity moving forward?
No, not really. But Cran's talking about it, so people are gonna play it. And it being like a tier 1 deck, you
Okay.
know, I'm willing to be wrong. I would actually love for me to be wrong because when I was play testing that deck at the beginning of last format, it was one of the most fun decks that I had played.
Yeah.
Right? I just feel like people knew how to play around it. But you know, we're always adding more tools to it, so hopefully it really bumps it up to that tier 1 status.
Cool. All right. Next up, we have something that has been very widely talked about. Again, keep in mind, some of these will be my inclusions. I think this one might be my inclusion. And the Kita. This is an 8-cost inkable, 7 strength, 7 willpower, quest for 2, shifts for 6. Okay. And we've got 2 different abilities here. So when you play this character, each player may put up to 5 cards from their discard into their inkwell face down and exerted. So it ramps both players up 5 potentially. And then the bigger ability that got some laughs, but also eventually became kind of interesting to people is pay 7. Look at the top 2 cards of your deck. Put one into your hand and the other on the bottom of your deck. So a couple different things. If you're somebody like me, I also was kind of laughing about, you know, essentially develop your brain going, you know, from a 1-cost ability to a 7. I do think I feel a little bit differently about that now based on like some opinions that I've seen and seeing the card, you know, in action. It was really like, whoa, okay, that ink is very powerful. So talk to me about this card. What do you think about it? What do you have to say about the cost of that second ability? What do you have to say about the idea of like both players putting 5 cards into their inkwell, and how that kind of changes maybe the power level that could be if this is a, you know, meta staple in all Sapphire builds?
So, first of all, my overarching thought process when I look at this card is interchangeable win condition, right? So I just like dismiss it immediately. Not that it's a bad card. I actually think it's a good card. But when I'm going through the spoilers, I'm just like, yeah, this is a random win condition. Like decks aren't usually looking for win conditions. You want to pick the best one, obviously, but like it's not something that's completely necessary. And then the reason that people dismiss the card immediately is because it has a symmetrical effect, right? But if we look at cards like Donald Duck Perfect Gentleman, if your deck takes advantage of that symmetrical effect more than your opponent's deck, it's not really a symmetrical effect, right? And if you're playing this in certain ink combinations, your opponent is going to get very little ink from it. And you should be able to use the ink better than your opponent. So I would give the card like a 7 out of 10. It's just like an average, fine win condition. I'm shocked that people are like, this card is a 1 out of 10 unplayable. And I'm shocked that people are like, oh my God, this is the reason to play Sapphire. Because the reason to play Sapphire is Sail the Azrace.
Okay, cool. And so do you think it makes sense why Develop Your Brain now costs 7 as the people are putting it?
Yeah. Sorry. So yeah, I mean, for one, you should have the ink for it, right? Um, I know it sounds weird to have like a random 7 ink left over, but we have obviously seen people with their piles and piles and piles of ink that they can't even fan out anymore, right? And 7 ink to them is nothing. So Develop Your Brain, it does not net you a card. It lets you find a card, right, in your top 2. Whereas this card does not cost you any amount of cards from your hand. So it's actually going positive and getting to look 1 card deeper. So like, I'm sure if this costs 5 plus, it was fine. Like, I'm not sure exactly why it had to be 7. Not that like we've play tested with the card for 2 years, like Ravensburger has, and we have no idea what's coming, post rotation. Because again, this is the last set before we're going to be rotating again. So I think it's like just perfectly fine. It's like Kuzco. People were playing the 6-cost Kuzco and activating that multiple times, and that was 4, right? So for 2 Kuzco activations, you get to actually draw a card instead of like giving your cards resist for no reason. So
Okay, yeah. So there's that Kita. Yeah, I think that's definitely true. I agree with like the sentiment of like why 7 over just like 5 or 6. Like I think 5 and above, you're right. Any number is fine. So 7 does feel very specific. But yeah, once I saw the card in action, it was one of those things where like you guys have to keep in mind too, if you get even like 2 or 3 of these off, you've got like 10 or 15 ink right there that like you then have for the rest of the game. So it's like when you've done everything you can, and people like in Sapphire, we're already getting up to like 16 ink in some cases, right? So then you just add like 5 if you only see this once, to that, and it's like, okay, so we just have so much ink left over that we can just always do this ability. And like you said, it kind of like starts to make more sense that way. So cool. I just wanted to address it because I think that yeah, go ahead.
also, songs are free. So like if you're just digging for Under the Sea, you can exert 14 ink, and you can be fully exerted out of ink and still play cards in this game. So
Yeah, could use all your ink to find it based on with this Kita ability, and then just sing it with herself. So a great point there as well. All right. Next up, we've got Someone Will Lose His Head. This is a 3-cost inkable action, also a song. And it says each opposing character gets -2 strength this turn. They love Under the Sea in the dev team over there. Talk to me about what do you think about Someone Will Lose His Head?
yeah, I wanted to add this card for a couple reasons. One, God, I'm sick of these combos that just wipe your whole board and not the whole board.
Right.
It is so frustrating. To be fair, I do think that it is much more reasonable to have these 2-card combos that wipe only your whole board, right?
I agree.
It's not just 1 card that you can draw off your deck. And we have seen people play Emerald Sapphire who draw all their little Clarabelles, all their malicious, mean, and scaries, and then draw themselves right into the draw bracket because they have no way of winning the game. So, like, I think the card is fine to exist, but that doesn't mean it's not going to frustrate me to no end. Second, how is this not our preview card? Whoever is picking the preview cards at Ravensburger, come on. My daughter's name is Alice. I actually have a button at my house that you click it from the Disney store that yells off with your head. My kids drive me nuts with it. But anyway, that's all. That's my TED talk.
Great. Yeah, so enabling the one-sided board wipe yet again. There's a lot of things that enable Under the Sea right now, already existing in the way that like just dogs as a deck is built. And so this is also adding to the things that can do. Interesting that like this gets around ward. I do think that that's like a cool thing, because so far we've just had like Della Moon Lullaby, for example, and like you can't target I don't know, let's say like a Scuttle with that, which like the -2 isn't enough anyways, but just for the idea of like trying to minus the board, maybe you have 2 Dellas in hand. Same with this, it's like it's not just choosing one, so you can kind of have multiple of them to get characters down and you get around ward, which I think is nice.
We've also seen people, like we were commenting the ICL and people were still playing the heads held high combo. And, unless you're specifically trying to pick off certain things with Vanish, which I believe this would still just hit all of them anyway if you have Under the Sea. This is just a cheaper heads held high in many scenarios.
Yeah, for sure. So I think it's a good card. I'm excited for it to exist in the game. And even though I'll probably be mad about it and I'll lose to it, it's still cool conceptually to look at. All right, next up, we've got, I think this one was my inclusion as well, 5-cost uninkable action, also a song in What Else Can I Do? This says, look at the top 2 cards of your deck. Put one into your hand and the other into your inkwell face down and exerted. If a character sang this song, your characters gain ward until the start of your next turn. So this is essentially, I like to say, power crept How Far I'll Go, because for one more ink, right? Because How Far I'll Go is 4 costs and uninkable. For one more ink cost, you also get to give your characters ward. Because more often than not, you're singing this song, right? Or there's at least that potential upside. So I don't know. Talk to me about that. Talk to me about what you think. Like, is this on rate based on like the old charts of like, it costing one more, but you give everything ward and all those things?
So if you give 2 characters ward, it's on rate, right? Because ward costs 1 ink, and How Far I'll Go costs 4. So, or sorry, if you give at least 1 character ward, then it's on ring. So if you give 2 characters ward, then you've saved yourself ink, right? I think the problem with this card is that most decks want to do a 2-4-6, right?
Mm-hmm.
They want to ramp 2, ramp on 4, play a 6-cost character, and so you're going to be singing this with a 6-cost character, which kind of feels like you're bleeding a little bit of ink. I think that what's really, really nice about this card, though, is that there are times where you're like, man, I want to play like a certain character that is my win condition, right? Like I want to play an 8-cost Tamatoa. I don't also have enough ink to play like a random character or a random action that gives it ward so that I'm guaranteed to win on the next turn. And I think in those kinds of decks, this card is actually phenomenal, right? Because you don't care that you just like don't get max value out of one of your other characters that you're singing it with. You just care that I'm going to ready with this card, I'm going to win, and my opponent can do absolutely nothing aside from Raging Storm or Be Prepared in Infinity. So I think that this card is definitely going to see play. Like people were trying to play the 6-cost Scrooge. This card is free, right? Like it doesn't put a body on the board that turn, but again, when you're trying to just like win in one turn, this is exactly what you need.
Yeah. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what the ratios are on this card. Maybe it's not like a 4 of staple that I think How Far I'll Go, in the era of Sapphire and Ruby was. But I do think that this is going to see, at least 2 copies in Sapphire decks, and it's going to be cool to it's going to be interesting to build around, and also to just like have to play against. I'm excited to see what it's going to enable. I kind of like the Wilds Unknown is bringing a lot of really fun Infinity like cards, and I know that some people that's not like a good thing, like they just want things that are going to be core staples, but I think it's really exciting because that's the format for those of us that are going to DLCs that we have to look forward to. So it's like cool to get a Kita, it's cool to get a What Else Can I Do, because it's like, yeah, these cards just make sense in Infinity, like where you're just all doing as many broken things as possible. So
yeah, it would also be nice to see more characters
character-based Sapphire decks,
Mhm.
as opposed to like we're saying like play a 2-cost ramp card. You know, you play Cinderella on 4. It's a character technically, but mainly just because it's a singer. Like a 2/3 for 4 that quests for 1 is just like, you know, not an actual card basically. Luckily, we can sing in this game, so it would be really cool to see people play things that they want to give ward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm excited to see how it's going to be. I feel like people have been trying to, you know, for a couple sets now, like since she got reprinted in Fabled, make, I think it's Aurora Dreaming Guardian. I don't know about the sub word, but definitely Aurora, you know, from the first chapter, try to make her work where she gives everything ward. And so I think people are going to be pleased to see this as well. So, all right, let's move on to our last Sapphire card. This is Casa Madrigal. We've got a 4-cost inkable location. It costs 1 to move your characters here, has 7 willpower and 2 lore, with the ability whenever a character quests while here, you may remove up to 2 damage from them. Then you may move up to 2 damage from this location. Talk to me about this inclusion. We haven't seen a lot of hype for locations in general the last few sets. So could this be the new McDuck Manor?
That is what people are saying, right? And people are saying it's like a more sticky McDuck Manor because traditionally playing against McDuck Manor, you would need to challenge it over the course of 2 turns or ignore it, right? And it's like pretty difficult to challenge this over the course of 2 or 3 turns because you can potentially heal for 2 every turn on it, right? But I am not completely sold on this. I think that this is a playable card. I don't think we're going to talk about this card in the way we talked about McDuck Manor in the past, in the sense that it is completely broken. I think 7 is a lot easier to take down in 1 turn, especially because they have raised the rates of the cards since McDuck Manor has rotated out, right? I think if you go back and if you could pull some of the cards that were, you know, quote unquote staples pre-rotation, they might not see play now. If they reprinted them in, you know, Wilds Unknown, we might not see some of the cards that we thought were uncuttable in the past. And, you know, a 7 willpower McDuck Manor might be one of those cards that's just not good enough now when you have like 2-cost 3/3s and 3-cost 4/4s.
Yeah, for sure. I think that makes a lot of sense. It's like you said, it's like a fine card that might see play. But I think the thing that sticks out to me about this card is just because something is like an interesting ability or a fine card, you know, there are perfectly acceptable cards all the time that get printed that don't see a ton of play, or at least don't see meta play, and that's just because like they don't really exist into archetypes that are strong enough with them in there, right? So there's going to be like the deck that plays this Kita is probably, or like what else can I do, is probably not the deck that actually wants to run Casa Madrigal, or like a lot of the like Emerald and Sapphire decks that currently exist. I don't think, you know, I guess I'd have to look at the list, but like I don't think this card kind of like nicely slots into them, for example, right? So it's not just like a staple for any Sapphire decks that or Sapphire builds that currently exist. Even things like Blurple, right? Like there's a new Blurple for like Infinity that people are looking at. That's not really like, this card isn't really gonna like fit into it, you know? So I think that I say that, sorry, 1 second. I say that to say that just because a card is like fine or good, or you might be a little excited for it, doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna do all of the things like that you want it to do for the decks that you currently have. Talk to me.
I was going to say, you know, another thing that people aren't talking about is there's no Be Prepared right now, right?
Yeah.
How common was to sing Be Prepared and then play 2 McDuck Manors?
Right.
You know, you probably could have played 2 locations at 1 willpower each. At that point, your opponent had no board. Like, what were they going to do?
Yeah.
Right. So that's another big thing. It's like if there was some kind of board wipe that was symmetrical that you could sing and then afterwards slam one of these, you know, of course it's good, but you know, so is like any other location basically.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. So I mean, it remains to be seen. I like the idea. I like what they're playing with, you know, the locations for, and like what they're slowly, you know, kind of turning out to be. And we know that they want things to happen with locations again. You know, they printed things like that, legendary Elsa, you know, last set. So there are worlds in which these things come back, and I'm excited to see what that looks like. But yeah, all right, that's gonna be it for Sapphire. We're gonna move on to Steel. Here we go. We've got okay, Steel has way more cards than you initially added, but that's okay because some of them are really short. So for example, let's talk about this syndrome. Okay, I'm talking about the 6 cost inkable, 4 strength, 6 willpower, shifts for 4, quests for 2. It says whenever this character quests, return a robot character card from your discard to your hand. Then you may play or shift a robot character with 8 cost or less for free. Now, the reason I really wanted to talk about this card is because this 8 cost robot character doesn't actually exist yet. It exists. We know that they have it somewhere, but it's not in this set. And so it was really like a meme. A lot of people were kind of like saying like, which reveal is it going to be? Give me the robot, give me the robot. And it actually didn't come, you know? And I think the content creator who like revealed the 1 drop of like the, you know, the Omni droids or whatever, like was even playing into it being the 8 cost, and it ended up not being it. So less about the card itself. Of course, if you have anything you want to say about it, you're welcome to. I just thought it was interesting to point out. And what do you think about this idea that, like, you know, we are alluding to a card that's going to exist, but it doesn't exist yet, and in their minds, you know, that's perfectly acceptable because it's coming. You know, maybe it's next set, for example.
Yeah, I think that stuff's great. I love little Easter eggs of like, oh, now I get why they printed this now. Or like, you know, Joe Westergaard, I think he predicted 2 different set names because they were in the flavor text of other cards. And I love that for people who like enjoy collecting the game and enjoy being like, wait, what was the reason for this card? And then they can go down the line, you know, 2 or 3 months later. Oh, this is the reason for that card. So yeah, I think it's pretty cool. Instead of like every set just being a standalone thing that you forget about and move on to the next set.
Yeah, for sure. I actually recently went back and watched Garrick of Garrick's Lorcana Layer, his like story videos. I was actually just watching them today and going.
Great.
Yeah, they're so good. And going back over like the story and the way that he pieces, because he made these videos before the like lore books, which now exist, which is really cool, and people can kind of dive into the story in that way. But like looking at his videos and seeing how he would put the like flavor text up on screen and like fill in the gaps based on the art, I think it's super cool. And I just loved that we had like a little hint of that with this syndrome. Like how fun, you know? So I'm excited to see what's gonna come down to the line. Go ahead.
You know, I met him at Sarsay Games because I was praising his YouTube channel and had no idea who he was. And
Oh,
he
really?
was just sitting at the table with me. And he's like, oh, I own that channel. I was like, great work.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah, Garrick's
That was
great.
a thing ever. Yeah.
He puts a lot of work into his videos. Yeah, and one more thing I wanted to say about something you said, this idea that like, you know, things look like on their surface they may not matter sometimes when they're introduced, and then slowly as the game continues to age they become more relevant in a really, really positive way. I think something like this is the like, what are they, the keyword, not keywords, the like storyborn villain, those things. What are they called? Classifications? Yes, classifications. Character classifications, I feel like in the first chapter were not relevant. I would
Right.
venture to say at all, which makes sense, you know, because they were gonna
Basically.
you gotta like build people up into it. But now we see them and they're relevant, and there's builds purely based on like character classifications. So we'll talk more about that soon because we have a character where that's relevant in a second. But first, the next card on our Steel lineup is Rat Capone. I had to put our card reveal card on here because we had so much fun. Shout out to everybody who watched that video. Go watch it now if you've not seen the reveal. It's worth the time, even though you know what the card is. It's just really fun, and we did a whole script and we got the close and all of that. But I actually do think Mr. Rat Capone Rodent Gangster, is worth talking about. Okay, 4 cost, inkable, 2 strength, 5 willpower, quest for 2, and his ability, Shut Up. While this character has no damage, he gets +3 strength. So he's essentially, at least when you first play him, he's a 5/5, but on turn 4, which typically comes out on turn 5, right? So I think I saw some people saying like, hey, this card is going to be pretty good in core, or just like this is good to have for core constructed. It's kind of like the Lawrence of old, right? So I don't know. I just wanted to see if you had anything to say about Rat Capone and what do you think about this card?
Well, Lawrence is still in core constructed, right? So I think that if you're playing a deck that wants
now.
Lawrence, obviously you have to give this a gander. I am contractually obligated by Ravensburger to say that this card is a 10 out of 10 though. So there's that.
It is a 10 out of 10. If somebody else was talking about the card that wasn't you, is there anything that you could say was like an opportunity for growth or whatever about this card?
I do love this effect. Like Lawrence is one of my favorite cards of all time.
Sure.
I flew all the way to Japan to play with it again. For the Set 3 tournament. So I think that this effect is awesome, where like you have an above rate character immediately, and then it has a downside. But what do we like to say? We like to say, no, there are no downsides. There's only more upsides, right? So if your opponent is expecting this character to only be a 2/5, and then all of a sudden you can heal it and take out one of their characters, there's your upside, right? So I do think the card is playable.
Cool. Gonna be excited to see. Listen, you gave me some ideas, okay? It's about to be Rat Capone and Cheshire Cat, okay? And they're gonna be like, oh, that Rat Capone can't challenge for nothing. And then Cheshire Cat's gonna move that damage off, and then boom, Rat Capone. 5/5 all over again. All right, let's move on to going back to some of those character classifications. Character where this is relevant is Diablo. We've got another one. We've got so many Diablos. This is a 2-cost inkable Diablo with 1 strength, 3 willpower, quest for 1 lore, 2 different abilities. The first one says, while you have a villain character in play, this character gets +2 strength and +1 lore, so it becomes a 3/3 that quests for 2 on turn 2, potentially. And then while this character is exerted, your villain characters can't be challenged. Talk to me about this card.
All right, I should have researched this before being in the middle of Japan, and I can't really look it up right now. And you can edit as necessary or leave both clips in. Great, another Steel Diablo, or I can't believe they printed a Steel Diablo. So
I'll find out.
what are they thinking about printing a Diablo that goes right into Emerald, Steel, and Infinity? What is happening right now? Like, when your opponent misses Diablo on turn 1, you're like, oh, thank you, Lorcana gods, because I'm not going to get sung on turn 2. Now they just moved it to turn 3. What are the odds that they missed their 1-drop and their 2-drop Diablo? Come on, this is so frustrating.
There was not a Steel Diablo, so they did print one specifically for Emerald Steel.
Yeah. They went and they found the Loungers Twitter, all 175 members, and they're like, you know what they love? They love Emerald Steel. They love ruining people's lives. We're going to help them do it.
Yeah. And there it is. I think it's a great card, though. I'm excited to play with it. I think it's going to be really strong.
Too good.
All right. I guess that's it for that one, then.
Yeah, I can't talk about this anymore. It disgusts me.
Next up, we've got Merida. Okay, I think I added this one. This is a 5-cost uninkable, 3 strength, 5 willpower, quest for 2. So she's the Steel Legendary. Okay, and she says, when you play this character, you may return an action card named 3 arrows from your discard to your hand. And another ability, whenever one of your actions deals damage to an opposing character, deal 2 damage to that character. Now, before you talk about this card, I also threw up 3 arrows on here just so I can have the text for everybody. It is a 3-cost inkable action, no song. Deal 2 damage to chosen character. Then you may deal 1 damage to another chosen character. So there's some potential cycling, of 3 arrows, kind of like the Captain Hook and the Fire the Cannons from set 1. Talk to me about Merida and I guess by association 3 arrows.
Both these cards suck. I don't know what people are on their high horse about, honestly. 3 arrows, more like mini smash. Okay. It does the same exact thing basically, except you have to pick 2 characters, right?
Right.
I don't even understand why it wasn't modal, where it was just like select 1 or 2, deal 2 damage to a character, deal 1 damage to a character. That way you could just, have a better smash, because it's not, when did smash ruin the format? Never, right? So maybe this
And they
card would actually
reprinted it, so it still exists in the format.
Yeah, people don't even know that. Is it even an app? Who knows? Okay. 3 arrows, not great. We got 2 cost 3 threes now. What are people gonna do with a 3 arrows? All right. I know what people are saying. Turn 1 Tinkerbell, turn to another card that no one plays. Yeah, it's not happening. Merit. Uninkable? Why? Why is it uninkable? Here's the thing, and we could do a whole video about this. Removal, here's the title. Removal in Disney Lorcana stinks. Okay.
Oh no.
Do you know why removal is so bad in this game?
Why?
Because all characters are removal spells, right? All characters can challenge other characters, right? So they have a hard time printing things that actually like banish a character that costs more than the ink that you invested, because then you just like snowball effect gets way too out of hand. So I think it's fine that most removal cards are bad. Look what happens when they're too good. People can't play cards, right? Look at like old Amber Steel that invalidated so many awesome decks that could have been in the format because the removal was way too good back then. So I think it's perfectly fine that removal stinks now, but removal stinks, let's be honest. So I actually don't think these cards are great. People are like, I Fire the Cannons is going to do blah, blah, blah. Your Fire the Cannons ain't doing nothing. All right. It's dealing 2 damage. That card sucks. Okay. Your 3 arrows, don't put that card in your deck unless, the format dictates it for some reason. I think 3 arrows might be better in Infinity actually, because people are still playing 2/2s on turn 3 like Diablo, right?
Yeah.
Oh, so anyway, do I think these cards are going to be that great? No, not really. Yeah, that's another thing. People are like, I'm just going to play 16 removal spells in my deck. What happens when you don't draw Merida? What do they do? Yeah, quick shot, 1 damage, draw a card. Awesome. Stop, people. Come on.
Stop, people. Okay, well. So you don't specifically about the ability at the end though, whenever one of your actions deals damage to an opposing character, deal 2 damage, you don't think that's like strong enough basically. Like again, even if it is just like a quick shot, and you happen to, find it and deal some extra damage, you're just not interested in it.
Yeah, I do think that it is obviously powerful if you can get it to work. I think jumping through the hoops, like having a 5 cost on Inkable and all this stuff, I think you're better off just playing up the chain, right? Just playing a 1-drop character, a 2-drop character, so on and so forth, strengthening your opponent's thing, thunderbolting stuff, and just winning a normal game. Like, I don't think that this card needs to be in most decks that exist already, and I don't think that it's powerful enough to make it a whole new archetype, basically.
Okay, well, there you go. Sad, but had to be said. Okay, and then finally, the last card of all of our reviews for Wilds Unknown most interesting cards is Card Advantage. 2 cost inkable action, no song. If an opposing character was banished in a challenge this turn, draw 2 cards. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on this card. Do you think this is the thing that Ruby Steel, for example, needed? What do you think about this card?
I don't think that this card is very good in constructed, right? Maybe better in Infinity. So core constructed, I should say. I think this card is amazing and limited, and that gets neglected. So it's something that like not that many people seem to be interested in our channel, but it's something that I definitely want to promote more and say, limited does exist. Ask your stores to do it, right? We have pre-release packs now. I'm very sad again that this card was not revealed by anyone. Actually, it was just posted on the socials of the country that got this card, which is very sad because there were a lot of great content creators who I know could have done really fun things playing on the wordplay of card advantage. Because what do we say over and over and over? Draw more cards, win more games, card advantage is king. Yeah, and people should probably just also go watch that video. And now I'm pointing somewhere on screen and you have to add link somewhere. So yeah, that's all.
All right, so that brings us to the end of the Wilds Unknown set reviews. You came to us all the way from Japan, okay? Thank you for your dedication to the channel. What'd you say?
I say, you mean arigato.
Oh, yes, of course. But I know last time we were kind of in a little bit of a rush. So is there anything you want to say to the people as we get ready to head into Wilds Unknown coming this week? I can't wait. We're all so excited.
Yeah, some of the cards I dumped on, obviously, because like it's so disingenuous to just be happy about every single card. But overall, for the entire set, the theme, Toy Story finally being here, all of the enchanteds, all of the cards that we were genuinely excited about, I haven't been more excited about another set release, honestly. I think Ravensburger did an amazing job, and I'm not just kissing up. We've already gotten the opportunities we wanted, right? Whatever. Ravensburger, they can hate me all they want. But I think that they really knocked it out of the park with this one.
Boom. There you go. All right. Well, thanks for coming all the way back to the States for just the 40 minutes that it took us to film this video. All right, I'm gonna sign us off. All right, and that is gonna be it for the full entire, we completed it, Wilds Unknown set review video. We picked out the most interesting cards per ink color this time instead of just like 10 overall for across all 200. So I know it was a lot. It was, two basically almost hour-long videos, so I know it was a long time, but I appreciate you guys watching and supporting as always. We've got even more videos coming down the pipeline for Wilds Unknown, which again is coming so soon. It's coming this week, so let us know what you want to see in the comments down below. Okay, we want to do another like deck list video, but besides that, I want to know what you guys want to see from us, even if it's something we've never done before moving forward on this channel. All right, before we get out of here, just as a reminder, join us in the Discord. We want to hang out with you. We want to talk to you. We want to do all of the things. Make sure to subscribe, like, comment. We appreciate you guys so much. Peace.